So you may see a little pop-up that tells you that we are now recording. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce one of our esteemed board members, Dan Wagner. Turn it over to you, Dan.
Oh, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today. This is the annual Inland Real Estate Group Meet the Conservation Foundation for our elected officials. First of all, our wonderful county in DuPage is great because of the incredible elected officials we have. So thank you all for your service to make our world better. And I have to tell you, this Conservation Foundation, I'm so honored to be on the board of directors. But I got to let you know, Dan Goodwin, who's the chairman and CEO of Inland, he's a huge conservationist. He's got a farm on the Fox River, about a mile of riverfront. And we believe, Inland believes 1,000% in the mission of the Conservation Foundation to preserve open space and make sure our rivers and streams are good as well. So it's an honor to serve on the board. And one of the things that I've gotten to know is conservation at home. And it's been so incredible to have my yard evaluated. You're going to learn more about this, but I was able to have my yard evaluated by the Conservation Foundation, and they made suggestions and I followed them. And I've been officially named a conservation yard in the suburbs, where they kind of blow up different parts of my yard, and we put in pollinator gardens and rain gardens and butterfly gardens. And let me tell you, when you plant stuff, they will come. We had monarch butterflies, incredible birds I'd never see, different wet spots in the yard that go down because of the plantings. So I got to tell you, it's been a terrific thing for my family, and then for our neighbors. People are starting to do it as well. So, but without any further ado, I do have the honor to introduce two incredible elected officials that make our world a better place. First, I'm also the chairman of the Oak Brook Chamber, and it's been fun getting to know and becoming friends with our village president here at Oak Brook, Gopal Lamalani. Gopal is very much probably one of the most educated of our elected officials at DuPage. Besides being a doctor, he also has an MBA. So Oak Brook is very fiscally conservative, and the business community appreciates that. So Gopal, I'd like to introduce you.
Am I unmuted now? Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Well, first of all, good morning to each one of you. We just finished recording our 9/11 ceremony. As you know, because of the restrictions on imposed by the state, as well as difficulty in maintaining crowd control, September 11th is no longer live like it used to be. But I do want to send this message to all of you that the importance of September 11th and how we all feel about that horrific day in our lives. For now, my responsibility, as Dan Wagner instructed me to do, was to take a few words and say something about Conservation Foundation. Luckily, we've had quite a good experience with Conservation Foundation for many years, as a matter of fact. But before I say anything about the type of work that we have done together with the Conservation Foundation, on behalf of the village of Oak Brook and several trustees who are actually on at this time, I know our village clerk is on as well on the Zoom, and our village manager, Rick Janex. On behalf of all of them, I'd like to extend warm greetings and welcome each one of you to this important seminar. Of course, it's the magnetism of Dan Wagner and his magic that has attracted so many important dignitaries to this conference this morning. Can't happen without him. We all know that. Now, as far as Conservation Foundation is concerned, you know very well, and I don't need to spend too much time on explaining to you that it's all about saving land and saving rivers and preserving open space and promoting nature and the environment. And they've been doing this God's work for about 48 years, as far as I know. The Conservation Foundation and the village of Oak Brook has had a long history, way back to 1976, when our village president then, Sam Dean, who died that year, and he was also the head of the Dean Milk Company, as many of you are familiar with, he had purchased around that time 40 beautiful acres of open space, which he actually purchased in 1939. After his passing away in 76, his wife Dorothy continued after the death, and so many developers wanted to acquire that beautiful piece of property to do their thing, building homes and others. But instead of doing that and selling, she initiated a covenant between the Conservation Foundation and the Oak Brook Park District to preserve this 40 beautiful acres of open space. Till today, it remains open, and thanks to the work of the Conservation Foundation. Fast forward to November 2018, the Conservation Foundation helped advocate for the passage of $17.9 million referendum to purchase 34 acres of open land, which is known as Kensington, right across from the McDonald's property. This prestigious property, 34 acres of open land, was rumored to become either high-end condos or townhomes or apartments till the Conservation Foundation and the Park District came together to see if we could do a referendum in Oak Brook. And thanks to the many, many efforts put in by this group, as well as a group of residents, they were able to get the referendum passed with 68% of voter support. Very difficult in Oak Brook to get 68% on anything, but this was something that was accomplished, and I need to thank the Conservation Foundation for a lot of good work that they did, as well as a group of residents who helped them pass this. And following the referendum, the Park District was able to seal the deal with McDonald's and acquire this open space to keep it that way, or maybe to do some recreational work at some later date. A lot of work went on with this, with the help of the foundation. And after the deal was sealed with McDonald's, the rest is history. But the support from Conservation Foundation, including signages, handouts, attendance at meetings and various other events, helped galvanize our residents, helped educate our residents, and ultimately came up with a successful referendum that will improve the quality of life, because I believe this open space preservation, which is what the charitable foundation, the Conservation Foundation, could not have been achieved without the strong and grassroots support of the Conservation Foundation. On that note, I'd like to thank the Conservation Foundation and Dan Wagner for inviting me today and giving me a few minutes of your precious time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gopal. That was great. We appreciate you and appreciate all your hard work you do on behalf of all the residents of Oak Brook and also how it impacts DuPage County. Now I'd like to, I have the honor of introducing Mayor Steve Cherico. Steve has been a friend for a while as well. And Steve is a business owner and someone who also cares a great deal about the quality of life of our communities. And Naperville is another incredible jewel of DuPage County. So Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Dan. Well, thank you. First of all, thanks again to Inland for hosting and putting this on, supporting the Conservation Foundation. What a great cause. We're both very, very lucky to have an active role of the foundation within our communities. It actually is home to Naperville, as you know. So we are especially proud of this organization and what they've done. So thank you for doing that good work. And as I walk through my neighborhood, I see the little yard signs that say, you know, this yard has been what's it called, Dan?
Conservation yard.
Certificate. Yeah. So I see the little signs there along the sidewalk, and you're right. It does work. You see butterflies and little bees and all sorts of insects and things like that, pollinators that we just don't have enough of right now. So they do great work. But I want to speak a little bit about you know, we talk about, you know, when people hear the Conservation Foundation, oftentimes, they think about, you know, preserving open land, and that is certainly a big thing, a big part of what they do. And as pointed out by Mayor Lamanali in Oak Brook, they've done a great job of preserving big tracts of land so that can remain open space. And so it oftentimes is considered that the Conservation Foundation is in conflict with development and building. And I just want to point out that it really is not. It works in concert with it. I think Brooke will be talking to you a little bit more about some of the work that they've done with development companies to make sure that developments that are being planned with conservation in mind. And when you do that, it makes the development better, it makes the community better, and it's healthier. And so it's just smart planning. And these are the types of things that the Conservation Foundation gets involved with to make sure that as we continue to build out our communities, that it's done so in a way that is respectful of our environment and protects some of the open land, and also, you know, produces better projects. And so this is really important to note that they are not just here to, you know, stop everything and prevent change. They certainly want to make sure that we protect our environment, and they do a great job of doing that. But they also work with us to make sure that as we continue to grow as communities, and this is what mayors do, we're cheerleaders to try to get people to invest in our communities. And as our communities grow, they're there to help us as a support council to advise on what's the best way to do that. And so when you're stuck in in a situation in your community as a mayor or as a city council, and trying to work with a development that you think is good for your community, but you can't seem to get it over the finish line, reach out to this organization, because these people will help guide you, and they'll give you that extra message and that extra value that will make the community embrace your plans instead of fighting it. And so congratulations to all of the work you guys do. I'm excited to hear more about it. And again, thanks to Inland and Dan for putting this together. Great organization. Thank you.
Thank you to our wonderful village president, our wonderful mayor. Thank you guys so much for being able to help support us today. Now we're gonna, without any further ado, I get to introduce someone who has been a leader of the conservation world for many years, but also Brooke McDonald has been my friend for about 25 years. And Brooke is absolutely amazing. Someone who we're very blessed to have leading us. Brooke also worked for the Wheaton Park District, worked for the Forest Preserve, but he has been in charge of the Conservation Foundation for many, many years. So Brooke, please take it away and introduce us to this wonderful, incredible staff and leaders of yours.
Great, thank you, Dan. Thank you to Inland and Gopal and Steve. Thank you both for the very kind words and for your time this morning. We enjoy working with both of you and in both of your communities. I'm just briefly going to show a few slides here to talk about the Conservation Foundation before we get into our three short presentations. But before I do that, I want to introduce the chairman of our board of trustees, Chris Burke. I know many of you know Chris and his company. So Chris, just ask you to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Brooke, and welcome to everyone. Certainly it's a different format these days. I really am missing not only the generosity of Inland, but also the great food that they provide at all of our events. And I really wish we could all be seeing each other in person. We have a really great board of trustees, and on their behalf, I'm pleased to introduce the program today. But really, we got people like Dan Wagner, we got great leaders like Brooke, and you're going to hear about the very talented staff, hear from them today. And I know you're going to find out that we're already working in many of your communities, promoting conservation and doing some really incredible things. So welcome.
Okay, great, thanks. I'm going to share my screen here, and very good. I assume everyone can see that. Well, just real quick, again, as been mentioned, I'm the president and CEO for the Conservation Foundation. Been here for 25 years. as the president and CEO, and been very blessed to have a wonderful staff. We have 35 employees. A few of them are going to be on the presentation today, and just really been blessed over the years to be surrounded by quality people, both with our board of trustees and with our staff. We are a 501c3, been around for nearly 50 years, and our mission really is to focus on improving the health and the quality of life of our communities. And as has been mentioned, we do a lot of land acquisition, a lot of land preservation, work a lot with forest preserve districts and park districts and local communities. We do a lot of cleaning up of our rivers and streams, focusing on healthy streams and rivers, improved water quality, pollution and stream restoration issues, and a whole lot of public education and community outreach. And so we've been doing this mission for quite a long time. A couple of our founders, names you may know about, Brooks McCormick was one of our founders. Paul Butler, who also known as the founder of Oak Brook, was also a founder of the Conservation Foundation. Bill Green, a number of community leaders in DuPage County back in the early 70s. They saw what was coming, and they wanted to make sure that we had some land set aside as open space and that the public could enjoy as DuPage County and some of the surrounding counties were going to be developed over the next few decades. We are also an accredited organization through the Land Trust Alliance. We've been tested and evaluated and been accredited for sound finances, ethical conduct, responsible governance, and lasting stewardship. So that's something that we're very, very proud of. Also a 4-star charity by Charity Navigator. Our main program function areas are land preservation and restoration, cleaning up our rivers and streams, environmental education, and community education, outreach, and advocacy, as has already been stated. Our primary areas, we were founded in DuPage County, and for 25 years, we just worked in DuPage County, and in 1997, we expanded into Kane, Kendall, and Will counties, and we even do a little bit of work in DeKalb, LaSalle, and Grundy County. So these are counties where there are no other organizations like us working. We work a lot with local units of government, elected officials, park districts, and forest preserve districts, and helping them move their initiatives forward and help improve the health and the quality of life in our communities. As Steve mentioned, we are located at a 60-acre farm in Naperville called the McDonald Farm, and it's an organic vegetable farm where we run a community-supported agriculture program at the farm when we supply families, 500 families, with a weekly supply of organically certified vegetables. So it's a pretty cool place. We've helped preserve throughout our territory, and you can see the maps and the dots, about 35,000 acres, a whole lot of land. And we don't like to own land long-term. We like to help preserve land and get it in the hands of public agencies like park districts and forest preserve districts. And we do this through a variety of different means. We use conservation easements, which is a way to keep property private, but also protected in perpetuity. We work with people who want to donate land. The farm here in Naperville, our headquarters, the McDonald Farm, was donated to us. We also raise money and we buy land and then turn that over to public agencies. Some of the land acquisitions we do is a joint acquisition with local units of government. We also have a program, and I think there are some park district folks on the call here, where we do a buy and hold, where we do that, where we go and buy a piece of property, hold on to it, and just sit on it until the park district or the forest preserve district is able to buy it later from us and we get our money back. And as Steve mentioned, we do like working with developers. We're not anti-development at all. We've worked on a number of projects with developers, one in Naperville called the Atwater Project, where we actually work with developers and engineers and find creative ways to preserve land and keep our water clean while allowing for development to occur. And we have several examples of that, and it's just a great win-win-win situation. And finally, this is my last slide. I just want to talk about why we do what we do, and I think that's the most important thing. We have a tendency to talk a lot about what we do, but more importantly is why we do it. And really, it's about helping to improve the quality of life. And as elected officials, you know, this is something that I know that you are all very interested in. And we know that from our polling and from passing referenda like the one in Oak Brook. We know that what we do is important because people want clean water. They want clean water, and they want to make sure their drinking water is clean, and they want to make sure that the water in their lakes, rivers, and streams are clean. Nobody wants to be around polluted water. Also, we know that by preserving open space and natural areas, it helps improve our air quality and helps mitigate the negative impacts of climate change. So, you know, these ecosystem services, we call them, are very important as we're able to preserve more land. We're able to help with the health of people and the health of our communities. And also by preserving land, it protects wildlife habitat. People like animals, you know, they like furry critters and birds. And so by providing these places for wildlife to thrive, it also provides opportunities for people to be able to see and interact with them. And of course, the more parks and forest preserves we have, the more recreational opportunities. And also something that is very important is, you know, we have a responsibility to pass on something better to the next generation. Just like the generation before us passed on something better to us, and we have a responsibility to pass on something better to the next generation. And, you know, that's something that we take very seriously here. We say that we're in the forever business. And so that responsibility to pass something on better to future generations is something that we talk a lot about. So that's just a real quick overview of who we are and what we do. You're going to hear, I'm going to unshare this now. Okay. So you're going to hear about 3 of our program areas today. Jim Kleinwachter is going to talk about our Conservation at Home program. Then Jan Rail is going to talk about a new initiative that we started about Nature RX. And then finally, Dina Duhalik on our staff is going to talk about some of the projects that we and our partners are working on some of our local streams, dam removal in general. So she's going to be talking about dams. And then at the end, she'll talk a little bit more specifically about a project here in Oak Brook. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Kleinwachter. Jim, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and turn your video on. And Jim is going to give an overview of what we call our Conservation at Home program. Jim is our Conservation at Home program manager. He's been doing that a long time. In fact, he created this program that has been one of the most popular programs that we have here at the foundation to engage local residents and businesses in doing good things on their properties to help improve the environment and to help improve the quality of life for people. So Jim, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, I'm going to rip through some pictures today and hopefully wake everybody up and get everybody going here this morning. What I try to do with the program is to bring these conservation ideas to a way that you can share them with people in your household and your neighbors. Our main office is on the McDonald Farm. I welcome you to come down there. We have 60 acres permanently protected. It's beautiful with rain gardens and solar panels and wind turbines and a green roof, all this green infrastructure that you hear about in one place you can come and see it. It's a beautiful place to see. And what I'm going to talk today about is the Conservation at Home program. And this is where we bring conservation measures all the way down to the residents. So when I started working with the Conservation Foundation, I found out that people wanted to do something better, but they just didn't know how. How do I get started? What would I do next? And that's what I helped bring to the foundation. And I'm the boots on the ground guy that comes to your house, will help you through it, help you design what plants might go where. And we've been doing this all across the region. We now have 3,500 homes across the area. 8 different organizations have adopted the program. So we're all throughout Northeastern Illinois. We have gone into Wisconsin a little bit, Southern Illinois, and even into Michigan. So you would be part of a larger group of people trying to do these conservation practices if you did them on your home property. And then to bring it down to somebody's yard, like what would you do? I worked with Carol and Doug on their property, and when I went there at first, the property was loaded with buckthorn, and they spent a year cutting buckthorn. And I went back to their property, and they earned their sign. And Carol said, well, what do we do next? And I said, well, the next thing would be put out some Bluebird houses. And she said, well, Jim, we've been here for 15 years, never seen a Bluebird. And I said, Carol, you never had a savanna. And you can see in the open area, this is exactly what a Bluebird likes. Well, just as I said that, in comes this Bluebird. And she goes, did you have that in your car? And we laughed, but we put out Bluebird houses now, and she has Bluebird. So these kind of things can happen when people work on their property and make it more hospitable to wildlife. We have another section of the program that talks about conservation at work. So your workplace, and on the left are just a few of the over 100 sites that we have worked with to improve the properties for conservation practices. And pretty simple things. We're making better use of water, creating habitat, and also making them pretty. Very rarely do you get a chance to work with somebody who the park is named after. On the left, Jan Smith in Carroll Stream project that we worked with, and Elmhurst Hospital are just ones that we are very proud of. But we can do this anywhere. The Causley Zoo is in Wheaton. Simple things. So nobody argues with me that having birds and butterflies come to our property. We've got problems with water. We want it to look nice. Soil issues. Don't know about the trees that we have. And how do we even save money doing it? So it starts with the plants that we choose. And they're not just decorative. They've evolved here. And the animals and critters in our region rely on them. This hummingbird, for example, if you don't have hummingbirds in your yard, it's probably because you don't have anything that attracts them. They scan your yard very quickly. Nothing here for me. Or, ooh, look at that. And they come over to see it. So we can change things by what we've chosen in plants. This is the whole key here is these native plants. You've probably seen these charts before, but if you saw a plant, you wouldn't know the difference between one plant and another. Everything is hidden below ground where the secret is well disguised. The top of these plants is sacrificial. The key is in the root systems. They improve soil. And just like the evolutionary process in animals, you know, a turtle carries its shell around with it. These plants are adapted to Illinois, and we don't have to water them or baby them, that they just do well every day. And there's a number of reasons why I can say that these plants are better, because they are performing here. They're doing things that other plants are just not doing when they're here. And look how pretty these can be when we implement them into our areas. And fixing problems is something we can do, creating pretty areas that are both hospitable to animals and people. A lot of the problems that we've had across the region with our landscaping is due to what we've chosen. Grass is not a good thing, especially down to a lakeshore. And we've invited these geese to come. Geese are afraid of the naturalized landscaping, and they love the grass. So a lot of the problems that we have, we've done with our choices of landscaping. So I walked into this lady's yard, and she said, well, let me show you the area in the back that always floods. Well, the picture on the left is what I found. So these plants have to endure wild swings from heat and drought and flooding and fire and snow and you name it. And so I can help you find these adaptable plants that turn your brown thumb into a green thumb, because the plants themselves are tough enough to withstand all the things that happen in Illinois. My granddaughter, walking in downtown Chicago, found a monarch, and how unique it is that these critters can fly down past the Sears Tower and wind their way through streets busy with ambulances and police and protesters or whatever is going on in the community. And this monarch still finds a way to propagate itself and to carry on. It's just an amazing thing that we can be part of. The traditional landscape, if you wanted to know where this plant belongs, just Google it. And you find that what we've chosen typically in our yards is things from all over the world. They're not the ones that are adapted here and are functioning here. So how do we do that? And I help people with problems. And we do it without, a fee. So whether it's shady, it's dry, it's wet, you name the problem, and I'll be able to find plants that would be adaptive to that area and function and look really nice there. What we've done is covered our area with grass, and we're putting fertilizer on it at unprecedented rates, and it's causing environmental damage. When you look at the United States, 39 of the lower 48 states are covered with grass. In Illinois, there's more grass than corn and soybeans together. So do we need all that grass is the question. In this picture, you're looking at the left side is the traditional grass, and it's burned out in a drought. But the right side is blooming. This is in downtown Geneva. Beautiful orange milkweed there, and coneflowers and grasses. And your eyes are much more attracted to the right. The right is less costly for these places to do. It's somewhere in the range of 50 to 60% less costly than traditional grass. And look how beautiful at the same time, plus the attraction for birds and butterflies. We're selling rain barrels. And since our focus is on rainwater and the quality of the rain and protecting water resources, we sell them cheaper than anybody else, and we're selling thousands of them every day. Every municipality that we're working with, you may have it in your town, or you're hearing about a rain barrel sale. We can help you with rain barrels. The one on the right is one that we painted. So if somebody found that, well, the rain barrel's kind of ugly, well, let's fix it. There's answers for all these things. We can help you implement these rain catching devices. And then lastly, to catch your eye on underperforming landscapes. This is right in Naperville, where they bring us a site and they say, isn't this lovely? And could you imagine anything different there? And boom. Now we make it look easy. It's not that easy, but you have help. And that's the bottom line is we've tried to make it so people can walk through these areas. We want to facilitate it. We want people to hear the birds and smell the smells and see the insects and engage themselves in conservation. And this is Lyman Woods right in Downers Grove. Knowing that you have someone to help you with it and that you're not alone, I wouldn't know where to start type of thing. So lastly, I'll leave you with contact information and reach out to us, see if I can help you, see if we can do something better on your property.
Great, Jim, thank you. And I'm hoping we'll have some time at the end to answer anybody's questions about these programs. The next staff person I'd like to introduce is Jan Rail. Jan and I used to work for the DuPage County Forest Preserve many, many years ago. And now she works for us here at the Conservation Foundation. She's our DuPage County Program Director. And one of the areas that she's responsible for is our new Nature RX DuPage initiative. And this is something that I'm really excited about. And I think the message being outside in nature and how that helps us mentally, physically, and spiritually is very, very pertinent right now. So Jan, I'm going to turn it over to you and have you talk about Nature RX.
Okay, Brooke. I'm going to share my screen here and also share my computer sound. So as Brooke said, I'm beginning, come on. There we go. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why everyone needs a nature fix with everything that's going on. But I'd like to start out with this short video to set the mood, and I hope you all get a good laugh from it.
Do you find yourself longing for the apocalypse? I did. I was looking for a reason to live. Hi. Are you feeling tired, irritable, stressed out? Well, you might consider nature.
From the people that brought you Getting Outside comes prescription strength Nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the crippling symptoms of modern life.
Nature's recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too.
Nature can reduce cynicism, meaninglessness, anal retentiveness, and murderous rage. In clinical studies, Nature is proven to decrease work-induced catatonia.
Caution. Nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, or seriously consider what the you're doing with your life.
If you are overly cynical, jaded, or emotionally numb, you may need to increase your dose of nature. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Nature may not be right for you. Side effects may include spontaneous euphoria, taking yourself less seriously, and being in a good mood for no apparent reason.
So ask your doctor if nature is right for you.
So I hope that sort of sets the mood and gets us going on the topic of why nature is important. So nature is important because your mind and bodies need to recharge. Being out in nature is part of our genetic code. It's part of what, it also helps us reduce our stress levels. So E.O. Wilson was a professor biology professor at Harvard University, and he coined the term biophilia in a book with the same title. And biophilia is the love of nature and all things living. And it's an essential part of us, our human nature. And what it is our affinity towards nature. And so think about where you'd like to go on vacation, beaches, the mountains, parks. And it's your happy place. At least it is mine from growing up and stuff. And when people are out in nature, they feel less angry, they are happier. And they also call nature sometimes the visual Valium for us. In urban scenes, they find that people are more aggressive, they're angrier, and also sad, more sad. And you think about it too, the blues and greens of nature have a calming effect. And part of it is the greens are like a food source for us. We think of that as part of our, what we need to stay healthy. And there's a recent study, so I think we can all agree that this is one of the deepest and longest periods in our history when we've been forced to self-isolate from our family and friends. And we have all felt stress and anxiety because we can't plan ahead, we don't know what's happening next, and from day to day. The University of Vermont did a study, and this study was just completed in August, or continuing, but the research, some of it came out this past August. And they were analyzing posts on Twitter since 2008. And they analyzed 50 million tweets per day. And this is what the graph looks like. And they measured the mood of the Twitter traffic. And the lowest point that since 2008, and you can see on this thing, the lowest point was in when the COVID hit in mid-March. And the other lowest period was during the protests following the murder of George Floyd. And so what they found, though, is that these same tweets also can indicate a potential salve that parks provide. Before the pandemic lockdown began, they compared tweets before, during, and after visits to 150 parks, playgrounds, and plazas in San Francisco. And they found that parks visits corresponded with a spike in happiness, followed by an afterglow that lasted about 4 hours. The Twitter records showed that the park's increase in happiness was at a level similar to that to the bounce at Christmas, which is typically the happiest time of the year for everyone, they showed in their tweets. They expanded this research to 25 of the largest cities in the United States, and they found that this this bounce occurred everywhere throughout the country. And sure, parks in public spaces won't cure COVID, but there's growing evidence that the parks contribute to the mental and physical health in a large range of communities. In a study at Stanford in 2015, researchers sent people to an urban setting and to a park setting. And those people who walked in nature showed improved moods and better memory performance compared to those that had gone into an urban environment. And nature refreshes our brain. At the University of Michigan, they did a study and they found that just a 15-minute stroll in the woods gives us positive emotions. It's like taking a nap, and it restores and refreshes us, much like sleep does. In Japan, they did a study where they took businessmen out into the nature for 3 days, and afterwards they said that they had lower cortisol levels, which is your stress levels, lower blood pressure, lower heart rate, and they found that this effect actually lasted for several months. And I don't know if you know, so in Japan, they've adopted this term and it's spread and across the country. I don't know how many have heard this term. It's called Shinrin-yoku. The term was coined by the Japanese Minister of Agriculture. And they found that spending time in nature would strengthen your immune system. And this is how they came up with the term Shinrin-yoku, which means forest bathing. And they now have it as a part of their health care. And the plants actually give off an organic compound called phytocidins. And what they are is, as we breathe these in, their antibacterial and antifungal qualities actually help boost our immune system. It increases our white blood count, they found. And they said the most effective smells are cedar, actually, they find that is the most beneficial to your system. So any walk in the woods or any walk in the park, they say, is actually very beneficial to your health. So how much time outdoors is necessary? You know, if you're like me, you have a busy schedule and you don't have time to go outside all the time, and you don't have time to take a three-day field trip. So they say in Finland, they did a study and it said at least 5 hours a month. So that's about, 30 minutes 2 times a week, or maybe 15 minutes, 5 days or 6 days a week to get outside and enjoy nature. So we've put together a coalition of healthcare providers, park districts, forest preserve district personnel, school districts, and other organizations. And we're trying to promote nature as part of a wellness program for schools and other organizations. So part of this, though, we want to, and this is the purpose statement that we came up with, is we want to use nature and to improve the physical and mental and social health and well-being of people and the community. So part of the program we're modeling after is Park RX America, and this is Dr. Czar in Washington, D.C., and he had started a park prescription program, and he writes prescriptions for kids to get outdoors to improve their physical and their mental health. So what we've been doing, this program is actually accessible to everyone across the United States, and the program has actually expanded. The concept of the park prescription is something that really only started taking shape about 5 years ago, and it spread across the country. And the National Park RX initiative, with the support of the National Recreation and Park Association, has been tracking the growth of these programs. And this is sort of what we're trying to get going in our area in DuPage County. So what it is we have actually, this is a program that a healthcare provider or anyone can pull up. It's parkrxamerica.org. And we actually hired a consultant to put all the parks in. And this past summer, an intern, myself, and others have been populating all the amenities, and we've been putting pictures on this site. So a doctor or anyone could type in your zip code, and all the parks in the area will pop up. And here's a sample page of what it looks like. This is Knolls Park, which is near our property here in Naperville. And what it does, it tells the patient what's there, or how long are the trails, is there sun, is there shade, what's out there. And this also allows a healthcare provider to prescribe it. So what the healthcare provider then does is they click prescribe, a text is sent to the patient, and they get this information. And when they've completed their visit, they send it back to the doctor, and they fulfill their subscription, what he requested them to do. So the goals of our organization, we want to get people, and specifically children, outdoors into nature. And we want them to, so what we're working with healthcare providers to get prescriptions, get doctors to write prescription, but with what's going on, we originally had meetings set up because of COVID. Everything got sort of shoved aside, and we're also working with Dr. Terry Horton at Northwestern University, and they're trying to develop a curriculum that physical education teachers can use in school. And we also want to work with mental health organizations to develop program or use existing program that is out there to get children and out into nature. So we want people to start rethinking that nature is not a thing that is a nice to have, that is actually part of your health and wellness program. And for as little as 15 minutes, a natural setting would be beneficial, even your own backyard. like Jim said, if you have your conservation home and you have the bees and butterflies, I know we have our own oasis here at our house. We have butterflies. We've had a lot of hummingbirds this year. It's been amazing. So the next time you go outside, take a deep breath, slow down, look at what's around you, put away your phone. That's really important, is to put technology away and not focus on that, and focus on the textures, the colors, what is out there, and enjoy, what you can see. And a little saying, if you feel blue, touch green. And we actually have some walks coming up. As Gopal mentioned, the Dean property, next week in October, we have some walks in the evening, and we try to stagger these different times of the day so people can enjoy them. We work with the Wheaton Park District through some, and also the Naperville Park District. So if you get an opportunity, go out on some of these nature walks to get the benefits of being out in nature. So, and also on our website, we have the 10 top hikes in the area. That's on our website if you want to go to. And if you have any questions, that's my name, and you can contact me there.
Great, Jan, thank you. Appreciate that. Our final speaker is Dina Duhalet. Dina is a member of our watershed team. She's a watershed project manager, and she also, she spends most of her time working with the DuPage River Salt Creek Work Group, which is a separate 501c, I think C4 organization, one of our partners. So she's going to talk about dams. Dam removal and dam modifications have been a big thing over the past 10 or 20 years. They're sort of happening everywhere, and many of them have happened already around this area. So she'll talk sort of big picture about dams at the beginning, and then end up talking about a proposed project in Oak Brook. So Dina, thank you.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Thank you, Brooke. So as Brooke mentioned, we're here to talk today a little bit about dams. And I want to kind of set the stage with some basic background on dams and kind of talk about the types of dams we're talking about today. So today we're going to really focus on what we call low-head dams, and they're sometimes called run-of-river dams. These are dams that are less than 10 feet in height. So these are the things that you've probably seen in our local streams, because in fact, IDNR estimates that we have between 1,200 and 1,300 of these low-head dams remaining in Illinois. That most of them were constructed in the late 1800s, early 1900s to provide hydroelectric power to neighboring mills or other industries. But as we are all on the electrical grid, most of these dams are relics. And in fact, many of them are not properly maintained and are slowly deteriorating over time. So the presence of these dams in our streams and rivers provide issues and impacts to both the environment as well as humans. We'll first talk a little bit about the safety impacts of these dams. So as you know from your experience viewing these dams, water flows over the dam and comes crashing down, promoting that waterfall effect that you all see and a lot of people appreciate. But what happens is when that water hits the stream bed below, it forms what's known as a hydraulic roller, and it spins back in towards the dam, as you can see illustrated in this graphic. Well, this presents a hazard to anything that may go over the dam, such as wildlife or even humans from swimming or kayaking accidents. And what's been shown is that even PDFs or personal flotation devices that are properly fitted are not enough to help extract a human from the energy that's generated in this roller. They estimate that there's been over 340 deaths nationwide since 1980 caused by impacts of these low-head dams and the hydraulic roller. So in addition to the safety concerns, we also have environmental concerns. Dams serve as a physical block to fish passage. You can clearly see that a structure in the stream will prevent fish from migrating up, because the type of fish we have here in Illinois are not jumpers like you think of salmon and some of the other fish that you might see about in the Pacific Northwest that are able to scale some of these dams. You also have water quality impacts. One of the most prevalent ones that we see here in Illinois is low dissolved oxygen. Just like you and me, all the fish, the bugs, or the macroinvertebrates that live in the stream and in other organisms all require oxygen. And because the dam slows water down and forms more of a lake-like condition behind the dam, which we call an impoundment, it allows these oxygen levels to not be what they would normally be in a stream because the water is deeper and oxygen does not move through the system like it does in a stream. There's also the slowing of the water. There's also issues caused by impounded sediments. As you can see from the graphic, as sediment moves downstream, without the dam, it would continue to move downstream and go through normal deposition and sedimentation. However, it gets trapped behind the dam and fills up. It buries critical habitat, also can be very very unaesthetic to look at because you start to see these big wide mud flats appear behind these dams. So these are just a couple of the reasons why dam removal has been prevalent across the US. Here, the benefits of dam removals are pretty much the exact opposite of all the things I had. The safety hazards removed, fish and other wildlife are able to freely move up and down the stream. The stream stops being a lake and moves back into more natural stream conditions. Now, dam removal is not new. It's been estimated that over 1,600 dams have been removed from across the US since the early 1900s. The map on the left shows all of the dams that are existing in northeastern Illinois, DuPage, Cook, Lake, Kane counties. And you can see from that all of the ones that are in green have been removed. In fact, over 26 structures have been removed in northeastern Illinois. And the yellow dots reflect the 8 dams that are being proposed or are in design to be removed today. The pictures on the other side of the graph sort of show examples of 2 of the projects that were done here in DuPage County by DuPage County Stormwater Management and the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. Churchill Woods on top, removed in 2012, and the McDowell Grove project removed in 2008. So as Brooke mentioned, we're here today to talk a little bit more in detail about the Fullersburg Woods and the Growy Mill Dam. So the Fullersburg Woods and Growy Mill Dam are located in the village of Oak Brook, sort of near the intersection of Spring and Wolf. Spring and York, I always say Wolf, as illustrated on the graph on the left. The property is owned by the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, who owns both the land, the building, the old historic mill, as well as the Growy Mill Dam. The Growy Mill Dam is present there on the upper graphic. The dam is about 6 feet high, and it is not a historical structure. This dam was built in the 1930s, around 1933, by the Civilian Corps, and is the 4th of the dams to be present on the site. The 3 previous dams were all washed out. This dam is also not of sufficient height to adequately and reliably power the grist mill at the Growy Mill, which is why in the 1990s, the actual grist mill inside the mill that turns the corn was converted to electricity. So why are we interested in Fullersburg Woods, in Salt Creek, in the Growy Mill Dam? So early in the early 2000s, Salt Creek was listed as impaired by the Environmental Protection Agency and was identified as not meeting the Clean Water Act goals. And what happens when that impairment designation is made is they charge the municipalities and all the wastewater treatment plants that are on that stream to come up with the plan to correct the issue, to make the stream meet the Clean Water Act goals. So in order to do this, the DRSCW, the DuPage River Salt Creek Work Group, and its partners in the IEPA have conducted numerous amounts of data, studies, and models to identify the 3 main problems with Salt Creek and Fullersburg Woods. The dam serves as a physical block for 16 native fish species. The lowest dissolved oxygen levels on Salt Creek are behind the dam. We found that large amounts of accumulated sediment have accumulated behind the dam, and they are covering some really good in-stream habitat, which is leading to declines in wildlife populations. So now that we've sort of had the issues, it was up to the DRSCW and its member organizations to come up with a plan to figure out what are we going to do to correct the issue. So for almost 20 years, we've been investigating lots of issues, and I'm not going to go through all of them. It's a very busy slide, but I kind of want to focus on the first one. So the one that sort of met all those goals and corrected all those issues that we identified is a stream enhancement project and a removal of the Growy Mill Dam. That project will cost around $4.2 million. Now, if this project is not allowed to go forward and we'll be asking the Forest Preserve for permission to implement the project in the upcoming months, what will be asked is the wastewater treatment plants, there are 10 of them that are upstream on Salt Creek, will be asked to spend over $200 million to provide upgrades to the treatment plants. Now, these costs are going to be passed down to 22 communities, nearly 8,000 residents in the form of higher utility bills. And our data and the data conducted by the state have shown that these wastewater treatment plant upgrades are not going to correct the issues that are here at Growy Mill, that only the dam removal will correct those issues. So what we've been working on is what we call the master plan for Salt Creek. And we have 4 main goals that are based on our data and the site. We want to obviously improve the water quality and get off that impaired list. We want to protect our taxpayers through adopting cost-effective and environmentally effective solutions. We want to spend our money on what we know will work. We also want to increase recreation and educational opportunities along Salt Creek, and we want to preserve the Growy Mill and the operation of the grist mill. So I'm going to walk you through a series of renderings that are all based on topographic and actual studies of what we believe the project will look like when it's constructed. So here is the existing site with the mill in the background and the dam. And what we're proposing is to remove the dam and replace it with an 80 to 100 foot long rock riffle structure. We'll also be doing improvements to the banks and the vegetation in the area and providing some additional access for fishermen and kayakers. One of the big issues with the Growy Mill in this site is the presence of the Growy Mill. And we want to honor that historic nature of that site. As I mentioned, the mill is currently run by electricity inside, but there is an existing mill race, which you can see here behind that fence, that sort of pit, as well as a water wheel that does infrequently turn. It is the goals of our project to maintain water in that raceway, likely through a pumping and underground system, as well as we're exploring options to make that wheel turn more reliably than it currently does. Here's the proposed conditions. Obviously, there's just a little bit more recreation through some picnic tables and vegetation improvements, but nothing will actually change to the visual aspect of the mill, and it will still run just like it does today. Here's a view looking back towards the dam from the mill. Obviously, we're looking at the same types of vegetation, and you can see another view of the rock riffle structure looking across Salt Creek this direction. Here's a view from the downstream end of the raceway in the mill building. And besides for, once again, the removal of the dam, we're not expecting any visual changes to this area. Now this project goes well beyond just being a dam removal project. It is also a stream restoration project. In addition to the small amount of work that's going to be done at the dam area, we're going to be looking at restoring over 1.2 miles of stream upstream of the dam throughout that property, sort of almost all the way up to upstream of where you see this stream split in two and come back together. And we'll be looking at using naturalized solutions for stream bank stabilization, the creation of additional in-stream habitat, and the creation of additional floodplains and wetlands. Here's an example of what this might look like. This is the existing flat bridge that's just located just downstream of the nature center on the site. And here's what a proposed condition would look like after the project. You can see the stream's a little narrower, but there's a lot more flow and a little bit more riffles and structures, and the stream banks have been stabilized with natural solutions. We also wanted to make sure we included and brought more visitors to the site and provided them with opportunities. We're looking at educational signage, not just for the environmental improvements and the benefits of dam removal, but also signs around the mill that promote and show the history of the site and why the mill is there and who was there before us. We want to bring people back to the creek with the removal of the dam. It's going to be a little bit safer. People are going to be able to get into the creek and play. The water quality will be cleaner. So we're looking at bringing more fishing stations to the site so people can safely get down to the bank and even enter the stream. There is existing canoe launch on the site that does need a little bit of work. So we're hoping to incorporate improvements to that, as well as the possible installation of another canoe launch downstream of York Road, closer to the dam, so paddlers and kayakers that are coming through could get out and explore the Growy Mill. I know I sort of covered a lot, and there's a lot of information available on the project. So I encourage you to go to restoresaltcreek.org. It's the project website. On there, you'll find the master plan. You'll find fact sheets. You'll find videos, including the recordings of 2 virtual open houses we held on the project, and then all the renderings that I have given you here today. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you, Dina. Well, you know, we try to keep these things to about an hour, and we're coming up upon the hour here in a few minutes, but do want to, I see we have a couple of questions in there. Jamie, do you just want me to click on those?
Well, you can, or I'm happy to moderate them as well.
Well, I just want, and I know that people are going to leave, so thank you all for joining us today. I hope you've learned a little bit more about the Conservation Foundation and what we're doing locally here in DuPage County and in your communities. It's just a real quick introduction. We have 9 major program areas. You've only heard about 3 of them today. So our mission is very broad and very deep. So just an introduction. And if you'd like to learn more about us, please go to our website, theconservationfoundation.org. So again, I want to thank Gopal and Steve. I want to thank Dan Wagner and our 3 presenters from staff here. And whoever wants to hang on and ask some questions, we're happy to stay on as long as you want. But I know that the hour is upon us.
Well, the first question that we have comes from Steve, and he wants to know, this probably goes to Brooke and Jim. How do you balance the desire to preserve the land along with preservation of historic buildings?
That's a great question, and sometimes they go together really well, and other times there can be conflicts. We've preserved a lot of land over the years that had historic buildings on them, and I can't think of any that we were involved in removing. I do know that sometimes when we pass a piece of property on to a local unit of government, sometimes they may remove the building depending on the historic nature or the condition of the building. Here at the McDonald Farm, Naperville, we do have some pretty cool historic buildings that actually provide quite a bit of function for us, not just the barns and the agricultural related buildings, but we have a building that was actually moved here from a nearby farm that we use as an office and for educational purposes. So I think you know, the key there is that each project is sort of, you know, has its own individual qualities and individual, you know, individual challenges. So, you know, even though that's not part of our mission, historic preservation, that doesn't mean it's not important.
Okay, great. Let's see. The other two on here are really more comments. So we're happy to pass those along. But yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions. If there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box or in the chat box as well. But
Jamie,
otherwise,
I see a comment here from the Village of Lombard. Reed, we will reach out to you and see how we can work with you and your Lombard community.
oh, Mary Lou asks, what collaborative strengths of leadership can be brought to positively address an important change for Salt Creek?
What collaborative strengths of leadership? Mary Lou, you sound like a professor. Well, Dina, I mean, you've been involved in that project. I know that you and Stephen and the work group have met with lots and lots of people about this, and leaders from various communities in the Forest Preserve District and the county. Do you have any comments on that?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that, you know, we can do is just getting out the right information and the correct information to the people who are interested in the project. There's been a lot of discussions that have gone on and maybe some misinformation that has been shared on the project, and just getting people to visit Restore Salt Creek and to see the information that's been provided that does accurately reflect the project. And then any questions can just be reached out to us. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, I know a lot of people have been involved in this. I mean, you know, the work group's been around for what, 15 years?
2004 started the process officially in 2006.
Okay, so about 15 years or so. And I know that the conversations around this particular dam have been going on for at least a decade. So, I mean, I think the experience that you and the work group have from the other dam removals, I think that speaks for itself. Were there any other questions, Jamie?
No, I think that is it.
Okay, great. Well, for those of you that are still on, thank you very much. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. We are about community-based conservation. Our strengths are creating local partnerships with community groups and community leaders to help improve the health and the quality of life of people in your community. So whether it's through conservation at home, education and outreach, we offer a variety of partnership opportunities with local communities, and we're always looking to have more impact with our mission. So again, Dan Wagner, thanks a ton for hosting this, for Steve and Gopal for your kind words, and I guess that's it. Thank you very much. Everybody stay safe and healthy.
And thank you to the Conservation Foundation staff. You guys are simply the best. So God bless you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.